Hi guys, Ryuu here from Blender Bros, and in this video I'm gonna show you some illegal moves from Hardops. Let's get started. Alright, so for those of you who know Hardops pretty well, you still probably might find something interesting in this video. But Hardops is a massive add-on, and there's so many things you can do with it that, even sometimes I forget that you can do this and that. So I decided to create a video that's gonna show you some cool moves and some cool tools that you can use in different situations. Could basically save your ass. Quick announcement before we continue: there is a free downloadable course for Sci-Fi Terminal where you can practice usage of Hardops, box cutter, machine tools, etc. It contains everything: modeling, design, rendering, post-processing, the whole thing, all 9 yards. This course is fantastic for anyone who wants to improve their workflow with add-ons for hard surface. It's completely free and you can get it on our website. Like I said, link in the video description. So let's start with auto smooth and shade smooth and sharpens. Okay, so I have this cylinder here, and if I wanted to add auto smooth and shaded smooth, I would need to in vanilla Blender go here, right click on this mesh and shade smooth, and then go here and add the auto smooth. You can do this actually with Hardops whenever you try to cut this mesh, because when I'm gonna start trying to cut it, you see that's gonna get smoothed. Another way of doing this would be to do this with with Q menu, so Q and sharpen, but this will apply sharp edges to your mesh. But there is a quick way of doing this, and you can basically press Q and then go to bevel, and instead of adding the bevel, press right mouse button to cancel. So what it will do, it will add the auto smooth value, and it's gonna shade it smooth without any modifiers, and also all the edges are still intact. So basically what you do is simply go to Q, bevel, right click, and you're done. Okay, now if you for example wanted to add sharp edges to your mesh very quickly, you can just simply press on Q and sharpen, and this will add all the sharp edges to edges above 30 degrees by default, and the default values are gonna be sharp, B weight, increase. You can also add seam. So all these sharp edges here, they're gonna have these 3 values running on them. But if you wanted to reset this to the default cylinder, you will need to perform a lot of actions. But there's a really cool way of doing it in Hardops. You can go here to operations and simply clear sharps, and this will remove everything, but you can specify here what it should remove. So you can just decide what kind of things this clear sharp should remove. You can remove modifiers, all these sharp edges, bevels, creases, seams, and also custom data, but it also removes the shade smooth. Okay, the auto smooth is gonna be left ticked on, but the rest gonna be removed. Now let's say that you have a cube and you have a lot of cutters on it. So you're gonna cut this cube with a lot of cutters, and then once you have really a lot of them, and let's say like tens of cutters or even more on your mesh, and you wanted to modify all of them at the same time, or multiple cutters at the same time, it's a little bit difficult to do, because if you're gonna go to ever scroll and start scrolling, you're scrolling through multiple cutters one by one, and when you recall one of them and then you want to recover the other, this one's gonna disappear. So it's a bit annoying, right? Another way of doing this will be just simply to recover the cutter collection by pressing Alt H, but this is going to recover all the cutters, not just the cutters that run on this mesh. So for example, this could be also cutters that have been applied, and they basically dead cutters, just cutters, and they have no meaning anymore. But there is a way of doing this with Everscroll, and all you need to do is actually hold Control, and you can see you're going to recover child objects. And then when you press B, it will toggle all the booleans that are on the mesh. And then you can select the booleans you want to modify, and Bob's your uncle, right? Another cool trick with Hardops is when you want to copy and duplicate mesh that has a lot of modifiers on it. If you're gonna go Shift D, well, fuck all will happen, because you're gonna duplicate the cube, but you can see that the cutters, even though they're still affecting the cube, they're gonna stay in place. So to be able to copy these modifiers and assign them to the cube and parent them to the cube, what you need to do is cancel this with right mouse button, go to Q, operations, and uniquify. What it will do, it will create a set of modifiers specifically for this cube. So if I'm now gonna go here to ever scroll and control click it and press B, I'm gonna have a new set of modifiers. Let's say that I wanted now to copy this, okay, to a new blender. So I'm gonna go here and I'm going to remove this Mac, and I'm gonna copy them to this blender, right? So Control V. But now you see that all of these are in one collection. So the cubes are in one collection and cutters are in one collection. If you wanted to, move these cutters to a cutter collection, it's going to take a lot of time, but there's a way of doing it in Hardops. You go to Q menu, you go to settings, and you control click on manage. What it will do, it will create a separate collection for cutters and will turn it off. So if you press Shift 2, you're going to be able to recover all the cutters that run on this mesh. Okay, so let's say that we have this mesh here, we're going to apply it. So we're going to apply it, smart apply, right? And you don't really have to go to smart apply through operations. I usually do that because I'm used to it, but there's another way of doing it. You can actually alt click on ever scroll, which is the same thing. Basically, there's a shortcut here, okay? So you can use smart apply through ever scroll. But then when you are in this, kind of like a applied state, all the modifiers are applied. Let's say you wanted to color this mesh, so Alt M and put some matte on it. Right, let's go to look depth here, and let's maybe make this a little bit less dark so we can see what the hell is going on. And maybe change this here to something a bit more civil. There we go. And you wanted to add matte to one of these faces. Normally in Blender, if you don't have any other mattes here in a scene, what you will need to do, you will need to, let's say we don't have this, right? We will need to Shift D this and then apply material to this mesh. Okay, so create a new material, right? So move this in here, remove this material, add a new material, and then I don't know, make it blue, let's say, and then go here, select the face, and then click on this plus here, select this material and assign. That's a fuck ton of of work. With Hardops, it's really easy because what you can do is select the face, go to Q menu, and then go to materials here and simply apply a matte, and you're done. And there's going to be a different matte here. The same thing you can do with cutters, but this is done through box cutter menu, so probably going to be a different video. Okay, now let's say that we have this cube here, and we have everything positioned. We're working in look depth. We're going to add some plane, drop it down here, rotate this cube, to make it a bit more sexy, and Alt M, do something like this. You wanted to render this, right? Now, if I wanted to, reproduce all these settings that I have, because let's say I rotated my light, I sort of adjusted it. I choose the, the strength of this HDR, etc. And I really like what I'm seeing, right? And I wanted to reproduce this in cycles. Well, you can do this with literally one click. So if I go here to shader editor, because I want to show you, we do not have anything here on the world. But if I go to Q menu and I'm going to go to settings and I'm going to go here and shift click this, it will automatically bring this entire set to cycles. So if I go to cycles, boom, I got exactly the same light setup. This is really cool actually, because you can synchronize your look depth with your renders, and it also works in Eevee, so it doesn't matter which engine. It's the same thing. All right, another tool that was developed recently is a really cool one. It revolves around cutters, so I'm going to cut a hole here in the middle and shift click to shift this to life. Now let's say now I wanted to reuse the shape, okay, this cutter as a solid shape. So I wanted to convert it into a solid shape. Normally what you need to do, we need to duplicate this cutter, then you need to go here to visibility settings and turn all these visibility settings here under visibility, because if you don't, you're not gonna be able to see that in render. Now there is a really cool tool that does all these things for you in one click with Hardops, and that's Shade Solid. So you go to settings and shift click on Shade Solid, which will basically duplicate this cutter, make it into a mesh, right? So there's a mesh now, and it will turn on all these ray visibilities on here, which means you're gonna be able to see that shape in cycles, which is pretty cool. All right, and you of course still have the cutter. So if you go to ever scroll, boom, there's your cutter, right? So you got two separate objects. This is a really powerful tool, and it allows you to very easily create a shape of the same size as the cutter in a place where it should be. Alright, another tool is gonna be flatten to face, which is kind of interesting. So similar tool is in Mesh Machine, but it works a bit differently. So let's say if I wanted to flatten these two faces together, if I'm gonna press Y and flatten, you know, this is gonna happen. It's gonna become one face, all right? But in Hardops, what you can do is go here to Mesh Tools, right, and flatten face, and it's gonna pull it a little bit differently, okay? This is actually quite useful because you got two different types of flattening algorithms, which are pretty interesting, okay? So go here, flatten to face, and you can see there's a different alignment. Then a very useful tool I use quite a lot is Z click to preview bevel. It's gonna basically display your wireframe. So let's say you have a really tiny bevel here like that, and you want to run a bevel here, and eventually you're gonna see that there's overshoot, but you don't really know what the hell is happening. When you press Z, you can preview the wireframe of the live bevel while you're beveling, which is really helpful when you want to adjust the size of bevel, especially when you're working on such tight corners. Another cool tool when you want to, for example, bevel a corner or a vert, because it works as well on a vert, is the mark tool. So first of all, what you can do is control click on the mark to mark something and create a bevel. Now this bevel can be mirrored with Hardops by Alt X and holding Shift to multiple corners, and now I'm gonna have a bevel that controls the entire shape. But I can add another bevel to it by pressing Control and Bevel. So if I'm gonna hold Control and click on Bevel, I got a secondary bevel here, and I got another bevel here. So when I'm gonna go in the bevel, press Q, I can adjust either of these. So it's kind of like a step bevel, but slightly different, okay? Now, this mark, it works really in cool ways, because you can also bevel a vert. So you can go here, control click and bevel a vert. But another thing that you can do with this is really interesting. You can actually add a bevel weighted edge. So if I'm going to go here and alt click on mark and move my mouse to the right, you can see now I added a beveled edge here, right? So now if I'm going to add a bevel and press L to quickly switch to B weight mode, you can see that now I'm beveling only this corner. And then if I'm gonna control click on bevel, I'm gonna add a secondary bevel to this cube. This is a really cool way of working, especially when you're working in sub D and you want to bevel an edge, and for example, just one edge on the mesh. So instead of actually going Control B, this is a little bit better, because if you don't have Mesh Machine and you couldn't go, Y and unchamfer, right, to remove that, you have a live bevel which you can very easily control. So you simply, go here, bevel, and then press Q, and you can adjust this bevel. Another thing that people don't know about is the tab menu in a lot of tools in Hardops. When I'm gonna go to array, for example, you can see there's like a gray dot here, right, this dot. So let's just array this one more time, and you see that if I'm gonna press tab, I'm gonna enter this additional menu, right, and you can really control very precisely anything in that array that you want. So you can control the axes. Here you can, for example, flip it, etc. So there's a lot of controls. And press tab again, and you're back to live mode. This is really useful, and it actually exists in a lot of tools. So play with it. This is really handy. Now the two tools are gonna be about booleans. They're really cool. So in edit mode, if I'm gonna go here to booleans and gonna use the selection to boolean, I can use this as this selection as a boolean. So if you press H, you can reveal more options here. And for example, now what I can do is I can press spacebar to choose boolean type, let's say extrude, and I can move my mouse in and out. Now if you're gonna move it out and you want to change it to sort of a union, press A, and you're gonna be seeing the union boolean. Press A again to go into extrude, etc. Then you can choose, for example, 1, 2, 3 for different modes of extruding this selection. And then you press, click your mouse, and you're done. And this is basically a really cool way of using faces as a boolean. Another cool tool in Hardops, let's just subdivide this cube, would be on the mesh tools as well. It's going to be face extract, okay? It's here on the bottom. So click that, and then you can actually choose which faces with holding shift and simply clicking on shapes, which faces you would like to use as a boolean. Then you press space, and you can move your mouse in and out. and then you simply click again, and then you can, you know, use this as a boolean. So you can either use extrude, press A, you know, go for example for the outset, so for union boolean, click, and you're good to go. So this is kind of like an EM macro but on steroids. EM macro is also cool because you can use existing faces as, for example, a boolean. So I could alt click this and, you know, expand it outside, and I'm gonna get something like this. So now the difference between these two is that, you know, EM macro, clearly you can see there's attached. It's kind of like a like cutting a mesh or extruding mesh physically using extrude, or for example punch it from machine tools. And this one is actually a live cutter. So what I can do is, you know, move this, you know, I can you know, adjust it, I can scale this, etc. I can do a lot of stuff with it. I can rotate it, right? So, you know, I can do some interesting things with it. Another really cool tool for Hardops is RECALCULATE SHARPEN, which is something I'm using quite a lot. Oftentimes you're gonna find yourself, for example, cutting some booleans, especially with bevels like this. And when you apply this with Sharpen, you will see that you're gonna have edges marked in the middle, okay, which is something you don't want. The reason why they've been marked is because Hardops is actually using Boxer is using B weight to bevel, okay. So if I'm gonna shift click this, okay, to live, and if I'm gonna go to edit mode, you'll see that this cutter has blue edges, meaning every single of these edges can be controlled with B weight. So, you know, this bevel is bevel weighted bevel, okay. So when you apply this, you're gonna transfer these edges onto the mesh. So in order to remove them, you know, you would need to select all of these manually and unmark them. But there's a you know, faster way of doing this. You can go to object mode, go to Q, and shift control click on sharpen. What we'll do, it will remove all the edges from the mesh and reapply them to all angles above 30 degrees or whatever you specify here under Control tilde menu. So this is a really cool and fast way of cleaning all the junk on your mesh that, you know, you don't need. Now, if you would like to master Hardops and box cutter, there's only one thing I can suggest to you. It's our ultimate guide to Hardops and box cutter. A link is also in the video description. It's a fantastic course and covers everything. There's a massive theoretical side, and also you got 2 modeling tutorials. One of them is older one from the previous version, and the new one is a sci-fi ship from the new updated version of this course. Link in the video description. Enjoy. So anyway guys, I think that's enough tips for one video. Hope you enjoyed it. Give us a like and sub if you did. See you in the next one.